What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we want to do a deep dive into the control panel that I'm using on the John boat. And this is a control panel that poses a lot of questions from people that are trying to figure out how to wire it, what's the best way to do it. So in this video, I'm going to go through how it comes out of the box and also how to customize it for yourself. So guys, what I want to do is basically go over the control panel that I'm using for the boat. This is a common one used by a lot of people. It has 6 gains on it, so I can control 6 different things. It has backlighting for each switch, as well as a lower backlight for each switch. It has a voltage meter for your battery. Also has 2 USB ports, and also has another power source here for that cigarette lighter style plug. So let's talk about the back, guys. The way this thing is rigged out the box is everything is comes linked together into one feed. So up here, of course, all red is power, black is negative. There's also a power for the lower LEDs on the front, which are right down here. The power for that is this blue wire. The negative for the lower LED is this yellow wire. High level, red and blue is positive, black and yellow is negative. But the way this is rigged, everything comes off of one feed. So these are all controlled by one power source. And for some people that might not be an issue. I prefer not to have it this way. I would like a little more protection for each and every one of these switches, these 6 switches down here. For me, I'd like to have each one of them fused. So that each individual source is protected. It comes fused with its own fuse versus loading everything up on one fuse, which is what this would be if I just connected this one that's linked to all 6 switches. Another issue I have with this is that the voltage meter runs constantly. It'll constantly show your voltage all day, and typically you don't need to know that all day. So to me, this is an unnecessary drain on the battery. Also, if you hook up this blue wire to the same power, the lower LEDs will shine all day when you really don't need it unless it's at nighttime. You actually don't need the lower LEDs at all, but it is nice to have it. It looks nice when it's actually on. So to compensate for the voltage meter and the lower LED lights, to compensate and not have them all on all day draining your battery, the solution will be to put the power to the lower LEDs as well as the power to the voltage meter on its own switch. And that's what I have this for right here. What I'll end up doing is connecting this power from the lower LEDs and disconnecting this power right here that's now joined from the voltage meter to the USB to the cigarette lighter style plug. They're all joined together in one feed. I'm going to disconnect it here, and I'm going to tie both the lower LED and the voltage meter into its own wire. So I'll connect these 2 together, right? And it'll go to this switch so that I can control the power to this individually. So when I'm ready to see what my voltage is, I'll pop this switch on, and when I want these lower LED lights, it'll be on this same switch. I think that's a good combination to have for this control panel. So that's one adjustment I'll make. The second will be to disconnect all of these red wires right here and connect individual lines coming from my fuse box for each power source to each one of these control switches. The second thing I'll do is, because I don't mind constant power being to the cigarette lighter style power and the USB ports, and the reason why I don't mind is because there's no light for this, so power only comes out of this or gets drained from this when I'm using it. And there's just one small light that's right here for the USBs. I'm not really worried about that. So I could change my mind later and then make the adjustment, you know, off season or something. But for right now, I really don't care that these are on constant. So in order to do that, the constant power going into this switch, I'll feed off of that. So I'll leave this connected to this switch, but I'll cut it here, right? And I'll put an adapter on it, something like this. And you'll see me do this in a video. It'll make sense when you see it. I'll put a connector on here. That way, whatever power I'm coming into this switch with will power both this switch and power this. Be constant power going into that. And then of course, this will go out to whatever I'm turning on and off. All right, guys. So that's kind of the lay of the land of this control panel, what it does, some adjustments you can make to it. I'm not the only one to do stuff like this, but it's definitely to your favor to figure out, like, what do you think your flow will be with these switches? What will you need constant power to? What does it make most sense to serve your purposes? So that's kind of what I'm doing, guys. You'll see it done in the video, but I wanted to explain it to you because I think this is key for anyone getting a control panel like this. Figure out how you want to use it and change up how the wiring is done in the back so that it suits your needs. All right, so one of the first things I'm going to do is take care of the constant power feed that I want for these two that I just mentioned to you guys. So to do that, I'm going to cut this wire. I'm going to cut it as low as I can because I want as much length out of this that I can get. And I'm going to go ahead and pull all of these off. I want to take my time. I don't want to break anything. There we go. All right. So we got that off. So these are basically useless to us. So let's prepare this to receive power. Put our shrink tubing on first. Don't want to forget that, guys. So what this is just a male connector, 14 gauge. This looks like 14 gauge wire that comes with the control panel. So I'm just going to slide that in there and go ahead and crimp it down. Give it a couple of tugs, make sure it's secure, and then slide my heat shrink tubing over this. All right, so we slid the heat shrink tubing up. Let's get it heated up. Heat gun works really well, guys. And what I like about this shrink tubing is it actually has some sealant inside of it. So when it melts, you see it start to ooze out. So it creates that airtight connection. To test my theory, the theory is really that by disconnecting it and attaching this to it, again, I'm gonna attach power to this tip right here. That's gonna come from the fuse box bus bar combo, right? But my test is gonna be, of course, if I connect this ground and power to this, it will turn on this switch and all of these. And I'm gonna test it out right now. So I'm just gonna take the power from the switch that I just made. I'm gonna have to turn this upside down so it can reach the battery terminal and touch it right here. And you see I have 12.8 volts and the light from the USB should turn on as well. All right, so hopefully you guys can see that on the GoPro. All right, so it works. So of course, the voltage meter came on, which means constant power will be going to this and displaying all day long, and I don't want that. So my next step is to disconnect the voltage meter. Let's make sure I have the right one. This one is back here. And I am going to disconnect this by cutting it here. I want as long of a piece that I can get. Strip this off. I'm trying to show this as best as I can, step by step. I know this confused me when I was starting to research this whole process, and a lot of times people make it a lot more complicated than it needs to be. So I'm trying to bring you guys through step by step. What I want to do is have the voltage meter and these lower LED lights on its own separate toggle switch, which I have right here. So the idea is disconnect the voltage meter from being run in parallel with all of these other things with constant power. And I'm gonna connect the two things I want run independent together. So that's step one. All right, so we've got these two wires together, stripped and together. I'm gonna use a heat shrink butt connector that has solder in it. So once you heat it up, it'll solder the wires together as well. Excellent, excellent. I love this thing. It works a lot better than these hard plastic ones. They don't heat shrink on and they don't solder the wires together. This wire will represent the wire coming from the fuse box bus bar combo. We'll power these lower LED lights as well as the voltage meter. So we'll get this stripped up. So you basically want to get the all the wires into where the soldering is. So I will need to get, there we go. The way it is right now, all three wires are right in the middle where the actual solder is. So I'm gonna go ahead and heat this up, get a good, nice, solid connection for these three wires, and then heat shrink the tube. Heat up the outside wire, outside of the butt connector first. and then hit that middle section. And guys, I don't know if you can see, try my best to show you in the light how the solder has connected into the wires. So that's a very solid connection. All right, so what I'm doing now, guys, is preparing the power to go to this toggle switch, because of course the toggle switch is what's going to control lower LEDs down here and the voltage meter. Give it a little tug, make sure it's on there good. All right, that's done. Like I said, the next step was to get this connected to the toggle switch to control the voltage meter and the lower LEDs. And what I've got here is a toggle switch by BlueFire Systems. Again, I'll link all this stuff in the description below so you know exactly what I'm using to get this stuff done. So we're gonna test this out. We're gonna hook it up to the toggle switch. All right, so connecting up to the battery. The key is once I connect the power to the battery, will the toggle switch control the lower LEDs and the voltage meter? So let's see. Yep. So lower LEDs are on. You guys can see hopefully, and turn off the toggle switch. Yeah, it's working, guys. Excellent. All right, so as a last step for this phase of it, remember everything was in parallel on the top as well, and I cut it right here. I need to go ahead and make this a safe connection. So guys, I'm just touching this up, taking off the excess wire, making sure I get it past the rubber sleeve, so that when I shrink wrap this, it'll just be extra safe. I could cut this off and put a whole new connector on it, but I don't feel it's necessary. I'll probably put a dab of liquid tape in there as well and shrink wrapping it. I think it'll be safe. Yeah. So right now that wire is completely behind the rubber sleeve, so I'm feeling really good about that. There we go. All right, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and shrink this tomorrow. I'm gonna let this liquid tape just dry out overnight, but that'll be ready to go. So once I shrink this on there, I'll be done with that. I'll connect it back on there. And basically all that's left is wiring the fuse box bus bar combo. I'll bring power in this middle row here and power out for each thing that I'm controlling. It'll be plug and play from there, guys. There you go, guys. So hopefully that answers a lot of questions you may have on how to wire the control panel on your boat. Next boat mod video is coming out soon, guys, which will go over all the electrical work, all the wiring in my John boat. Also, guys, if you want to keep up with a full journey on how I'm converting my John boat to a bass boat, click the link in the description below. Also hit that card right up top. The idea behind this is to bring you along full details from start to finish on this modification. So be a part of that, guys. Don't forget, as always, hit that subscribe button. Also check us out on Instagram, guys. We got a lot of things posted there as well. And if you got something cool out of this video, guys, leave us that thumbs up. As always, guys, stay safe out there. We'll see you in the next video.